Welcome to the Story Tinker Podcast, a place for in-depth analysis of webtoon stories. Co-hosted by sharp, witty, and dare I say, thirsty fans, we dive deep into every episode, analyzing character struggles, relationship development, and of course, theories. You can follow the Story Tinker on YouTube, podcast platforms, and social media. For bonus content, sneak peeks, and more, you can support the Story Tinker on Patreon. We are really appreciative of your likes, subscribes, and follows on all platforms. Thank you for listening to the Story Tinker, and let's get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 46 of the Hyacinth podcast, and it is called Skeptical Spies. And today we have Fwoot and Emma, and for the first time, we have Kenny. And y'all can say hi.
Hi. Hello.
Okay. So we are opening up with a scene of the Arhalis Police Department, and we see the sun coming in through the windows, hazy vision at the desk, and then we see Will and Kym walking around. Kym has this giant stack of paperwork. Will is also going through some of his own paperwork, and Kym's like looking over her shoulder at Will and remembering their fight where they ended up with saying perfect, and she just like kind of like blows out her cheeks. So kind of her way of being, I think, a little regretful or uncomfortable. Is that what you make of her expression?
It seems to me kind of, in a way, a little bit annoyed as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know, like she's probably wondering how Will's been feeling after that. Because, like, I don't know, it seems like at this point they haven't really talked much since it.
Right. Yeah, she's definitely gauging, like, you know, what is he thinking? But not able to actually say anything. Classic, right? Very common problem people have. They don't want to talk about their issues. And actually, Lukas notices that because, you know, she lets down her paperwork with a bang. And, you know, kind of has these like steaming marks from her head, and Lukas is watching them. He sees Will not looking at Kym and Kym not looking at Will, and it's just, he sighs and he has this, again, that shadow over his face again. He's like, well, congratulations, Lieutenant Sarge. Since for once the two of you have decided to shut up. So Lukas has noticed the tension.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he probably spends a lot of time observing, right? Since he doesn't talk as much as his coworkers, he has a lot of time to study them.
He's perturbed by the silence, and that's why he feels the need to fill it. He's like, this is too startling and unnerving. And now he startles them, and he asks them, would you like a cup of coffee? I'm going to make one for myself. And both of them are just in shock. Will and Kym are shivering, and their eyes are gone wide, and their background is black. And they're like, what did you say, Lukas? Are you all right?
Honestly, that's a bit shocking, considering how I feel like he doesn't actually hate everyone that much. I think that he dislikes them, but also in a way, like, is probably does not hate them as much as he shows he does.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a facade. I think he just likes, honestly, he probably just likes being left alone, maybe. Like, he's not super extroverted, and he's probably just here to get money. Like, he's just here to do his job, here to protect the city or whatever as a police, get that money, and not really here to make friends, even though I don't know if he'll not be able to not make friends.
I think like what you said, that it's a facade. I think he acts grumpy because that's like his personality, but I do think deep down he does like them. He does enjoy being around them. You know, it's just he doesn't want to say it. And he's like, you heard me. Sinclair isn't here, which makes you two a bit more tolerable. And Kym's like, just mine ears deceived me. This dark and bitter sir has a heart, such a kindness he has just bestowed upon us poor worthless mortals. Heavens, someone pinch me. And she's, you know, extending her hand up to the heavens, and the spotlight is shining on her in her moment of passion. Lukas is not impressed. His face is just the continuous grumpy face that he always makes. And he says, never mind, and he just slams the door. And yes, if you'll notice, the clock is once again 5 o'clock. It always seems to be 5 o'clock in the morning in the APD. So we're gonna just assume those clocks aren't inaccurate.
Yeah, I think it's just because they're like at a set time, like on the 3D model, and Soph doesn't really bother changing them.
But the first couple times I was like, they're really there that early? Like, I'm sorry, you can be like a workaholic, but that's too much. Although the truth is I can think of several industries and people where they do that. But anyway, I don't want to think about that. It's very depressing. So now we have Will and Kym alone in the office, you know, again, studiously avoiding each other. Will just sighs, and then he finally pushes himself away from the desk, gets up, and pats her on the shoulder. But Kym is not prepared for this. And he starts saying, Kym, but Kym is completely flustered, and she just like grabs his hand and walks him down on the floor head first. Poor kid, poor Will. He's like a ghost coming out of his mouth. What does KO stand for?
I have no idea.
Knockout?
Yeah, it's like something out.
Oh yeah, it does stand for knockout.
Nice.
Oh, okay. So it's like a boxing or something term, I guess.
I feel like this shows that Kym can actually like, she can really stand up for herself. I feel like people underestimate her.
I feel like we underestimate Kym in general.
We do.
We really do.
She's, in my opinion, the smartest out of the main four, the only one with a functioning brain cell.
So yes, for an extended analysis, you can go to episode 92 because Fwoot gave a rounding defense of Kym and her brains in that one.
Thank you, Fwoot.
I literally do not remember it, but then again, I have horrible memory. I'm gonna have to re-listen to this. Is it published yet? It might not be published.
92, yeah, 92 has been out for a while. Yeah.
Okay.
It's the Brainy Birds episode where Kym figured out that she was Lune.
Oh, I thought you said 32, and I was like, wait. Yeah, I had a broken brain moment there.
Yeah, and Kym's like, oh, and she has this very innocent expression on her face. Damn it, I did it again. Totally shocked. Sorry, I forgot you were still in the room. And then to make things even better, she just like slaps him on the face.
This is a great show of their relationship.
Like she's trying to do the right thing, but in a very maybe unhelpful way, slightly painful. Poor Will. And she's like, are you okay, Willem? And she's smushing his cheeks at this point. It's really cute and adorable. He has his eyes closed as if he's just like given up on life. It's like, remind me never to go near you again, idiot. So cute. At this point, Lukas opens the door with coffee in his hand, looks down, and sees the best panel ever of Kym and Will looking at each other, and not in an antagonistic way, but they look quite friendly in this particular pose with the sunlight on them.
I love this panel so much. One of my favorites ever.
I think I'm gonna make it
we don't talk about it enough.
Gorgeous. And obviously Lukas thinks he has walked in on something because they look very romantic. She is cradling his face quite tenderly, you know, he's hoisted himself up on his elbows, and Lukas is like, oh, sorry to interrupt. He doesn't look perturbed at all, by the way. He just, I guess, has some level of basic manners, but like he doesn't seem shocked or surprised, but he just goes out and slams the door.
He's just like, it finally happened.
Right? Maybe
honestly, I think that if anyone walked in on that, they wouldn't be surprised at this point. Only Kym and Will walking in on that would be surprised.
Yeah, they're the only ones clueless. And Will and Kym just look out the door, and Will's head is upside down. So cute. And like you see that marks of Kym's hands because she apparently slapped him really hard. Still on his face, and then they both yell. It's so cute and funny. Like, this is not what you think, Randall. And he opens the door again. It's like, by the way, Hermann wants to see you both in his office.
This whole part is one of my favorite parts of the whole series. It's so underrated.
Yeah, we don't talk about this episode enough, like, and specifically the beginning of this episode.
Yep, it's great. And Kym is like hopping away from him as fast as she can. She's like, oh, now that's interesting. Completely, you know, pretending nothing happened there. And Will is just like, his hands are over his eyes. It's never good news if you're involved. Again, he's hopeless at this point. And then we transition to them walking into Hermann's office, where March is present as well. And we see a shot of like the lamp on his desk, and what Hermann saying, Lieutenant Hawks, Sergeant Liddell, come in. March and I need to speak with you. You know, then Will's like, Captain Hermann, Detective March, how can we help you? Close the door. So obviously whatever he has to say is private. And then he says, it's about Lune. And again, very serious expression on his face. Not that we've ever seen Hermann with a non-serious expression on his face, but a little more serious than usual.
He means business right now.
Mm-hmm.
I really like how this webtoon is just able to transform from like really comedic to serious. And like, I think that they do it pretty well, because like right away I can just shift how I see it.
Yeah, so this is especially when it comes to Lune, you know, we know that Hermann is quite serious about Lune. So Will ask, any progress, clues to their identity? No, and that's exactly the problem. It's been weeks and we're still at square one. So he is, again, like really perturbed by the fact that he doesn't know anything about Lune and that they're like a loose cannon. Keep studying, Marsh says, I keep studying the files. There isn't so much as a fingerprint. For all we know, it could be a team of 2 or a much larger organization, which definitely scares them because they don't know who they're dealing with. And an unknown is scary.
I mean, honestly justified though, like for them, like they've found the Lune convicts in very, you know, interesting places, like, you know, bleeding, tied up to chairs in the closets of clubs. Like they're probably wondering how many, like, is what Lune doing actually legal or not? Is it safe for civilians? Like, although it's been pretty private, like,
honestly, I kind of doubt it.
I mean,
it's
like,
definitely not legal.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's self-defense, but I can't stop thinking about someone waking up and going to their balcony or whatever, looking outside their window, and there just being blood spilled on it from when Lune kind of massacred that guy on the roof, and that blood was like, you know, dripping down the walls or whatever. Like, I don't know, seems a little unsafe. So it makes sense that the police would want to figure out who these people are, especially as Hermann said that, like, March said that they don't know if it's a larger organization, because right now, although Lune is allying themselves with themselves with the police, they could very well turn out to be another Phantom Scythe. It just, you know, you can't know yet.
But Hermann has that and like that legitimate concern, but there also does seem to be some personal element involved, which he shows in the next couple of panels. He says the situation is intolerable. The actions of the higher ups revolting. He's using very strong language, like very emotional, like loaded terms. Lune may have helped us find some Phantom Scythe members, but they will not undermine the investigation unit any longer. So for him, it's a matter of looking like a fool. And yeah, I will defend Hermann. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he has some less noble qualities to his personality, but I think most of what he does is like for the good of order, because, you know, we talked about his personality. He's like the kind of guy who likes things straight and rigid and ABC and make it clear, and, you know, don't confuse me with like questionable things. But there also is an element of like personal pride and like arrogance, where he has to be in charge. And yeah, like he does have to be in charge. Like it's his job to make sure things are handled well. But there also, it seems to be a little bit taken too personally for him.
I mean, while I dislike him as a person, I think that in some ways that he's right. Like, it makes sense that he, is just looking out for the officers. He doesn't really want the hard work that they've done for this to be undermined. And it does make sense. I just don't like him as a person.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, at this point, also because of the whole we don't really know what illegal activities Lune could be doing, I wouldn't be surprised if some people thought Harvey was killed by Lune. Like they wouldn't have a motive for it, but Lune has broken into the police building undetected, and so did Harvey's killers. So like some people may be like, that's a little sus, bro.
Actually, I hadn't really thought about that part of it before, but with that, they might think that the Viper is helping Lune. So like that two-sided thing that they'd sort of discussed could be the Viper and someone that they know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't know if Lune is, because they know Lune has to have some Phantom Scythe connections, right? Because of how much that Lune does know about the Phantom Scythe. And so, yeah, like what Kenny said, they could very well think that whoever killed Harvey, maybe had ties to Lune.
That would make it definitely very scary for them. And Kym kind of like harkens on to what Hermann is talking about. And she says, they may make us look incompetent, which is kind of like the reactionary part of what Hermann is saying. But the truth is we do need their help. Marsh says clearly they had access to confidential investigations. And if our detectives weren't able to prove criminal involvement, it could only mean one thing, which is Lune knows the inner workings of both the police and the Phantom Scythe. And that's like the bad news here. And Hermann capitulates that. Whoever they're associated with the Phantom Scythe, whoever they are, they cannot be trusted. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, again, though, right? Because the police have had to deal with Phantom Scythe spies before that pretended to be police, and while they don't know Harvey was a spy, they probably found other spies before. So there have been people in the past who came to the police as a friend but turned out to be an enemy the whole time, and it's probably the attitude that they're having with Lune. You just you can't be sure because they have confirmation that this person is, or these people are at least some way Phantom Scythe. So with such a bad history with the Phantom Scythe before, pretending to be friends of the police, they can't trust Lune. Lune may be helping them, but it doesn't mean the police can trust them, or that Lune is deserving of the police's trust.
Yeah, exactly. And he continues and says, I will not sit idly by and let this farce continue. If they truly wish to help, like they claim, they must step out of the shadows and face justice. Whew. And Will asks a very, I'm like, dude, Will, be quiet. Don't say this. Are we sure it isn't someone from the precinct? Well, we're still verifying, Marsh continues, but I think I can safely say it isn't any of my detectives. We can't check the other precincts, this is Hermann, but if Lune is one of our own, they must be very discreet. And considering the quality of their files, I doubt they'd let their guard down around any detective, especially March. So it's a good point. This is kind of the first time we see Hermann using a little bit of extra reasoning, Usually he just barks orders and stuff. And then Marsh continues, but they might not suspect officers from the patrol unit. And this is where you come in. And we have these really beautiful panels of Will and Kym, kind of their faces are looking surprised. And there's really nice panels. And Kym says,
Purple Hyacinth has a lot of these side-by-side panels, and these are some of my favorites.
Yeah, because you can see they're both having like a similar reaction. They don't look happy. And Kym expresses that. She's like, so you want us to help you look for Lune, spy on our coworkers? So yeah, she's not thrilled about the idea. And Hermann says, you're the precinct sergeant and lieutenant. You're the most aware of what's happening in the patrol unit, and you have eyes on matters March might not. You have proven time and time again that you are trustworthy. And so we are asking for your help in this internal investigation. And I mean, this is very, the Hermann's way of speaking here is very professional. You know, he's praising them. He's treating them as equals, just admiring, you know, his non-grumpy, bossy moments.
I mean, like, as grumpy as as Hermann can get, he is effective as a boss. Like, he does get the job done, and he is doing what I think is the right move for the police right now.
I think we should end this with like 10 reasons why we love Hermann. I think this should be the title of this episode. No, I'm kidding, but that would be a fun one. And Will's like, what about the other precincts? Are we collaborating with them? And Hermann says, I have tried, but they remain willfully ignorant. The other precincts don't understand the gravity of the situation. We are alone in this for now. And Kym, sticking up for Fred, says, with all due respect, Captain, shouldn't this mission go to Lauren? And she steps forward. She was by far the most efficient detective here before her demotion, and she's patrol unit now. She could help us catch Lune. And Will also like steps forward and says, I agree with Sergeant Liddell. So, which is very nice. They're both always thinking of Lauren and praising her. And I think Kym saying that also is kind of a way of telling Hermann, like, maybe undemote her, maybe put her back to detective.
Okay, honestly, I think that Hermann made a good decision demoting Lauren.
Oh, yeah.
Because she could have done like so much worse. Because she's the type of person to think on her, like, just do stuff in the moment and not think about what happens in the future. And I honestly think that it's a good idea that Hermann demoted Lauren.
Yeah, and I think that Hermann was right picking Kym and Will for this one because of plot reasons, right? They need, you know, they can't have Lauren looking for Lauren. That'd be ironic, even though that's what they have later. But you know, it isn't with Lauren, but you know, it's with a different character. But like, Hermann's right here because Lauren deserved the promotion. I know, like, we don't, right at this point, we don't really know what she did, but from a few panels from a prior flashback where she's literally like screaming and yelling, like that, I mean, it doesn't seem like proper police conduct, and she was reacting really, I don't know, extremely to that interrogation. And so if that was just like a flicker of what happened, then we don't really know what fully happened back then, right? What that caused her to get demoted. So I mean, what she did, Lauren has proven herself time and time again to be very efficient, but whatever she did back then must have been really serious. Like, and I personally can see Hermann keeping Lauren away from Phantom Scythe, like assignments and stuff, because he wants to keep her in the police, right? So that she doesn't get fired, but he also wants her to stay safe because we know that Lauren's obsession has brought her to do very dangerous things, right? Like teaming up with the Phantom Scythe assassin, like the most infamous Phantom Scythe assassin. Like, I don't know, like, it's kind of hard to trust, you know, the person with the most kills in Artalis, but you know, it might just be me. But yeah, so like he's probably trying to prevent her from getting into really serious business or for just devoting herself to this issue so far as an excuse to, you know, get back into Phantom Scythe dealings again. Because then, you know, she's going to be like, I'm going to investigate the Phantom Scythe. And then she's going to go deeper and deeper and deeper to a point where she's going to probably find out some stuff that's dangerous to her and her family and her friends and anyone else in her life. And then, yeah, so the Phantom Scythe is going to come after her. So yeah, I think Hermann is doing this out of protection for her.
I agree with Fwoot on that. But the one thing that I've sort of disagreed with Hermann doing is constantly reminding Lauren of what she did wrong. It's good to teach, but it's not good to constantly remind after someone's had a chance to grow and learn from it.
Oh yeah, definitely, Kenny.
That's what Will says. Will says, it's been over a year, sir. She's learned from her mistakes, which I don't think she has, by the way, but that's what Will thinks. And he just says, no, I don't want Officer Sinclair, and he emphasizes Officer Sinclair, involved with anything Phantom Scythe related. Last year, her obsession embarrassed our entire precinct. It's not a risk worth taking twice. And yeah, we just discussed that. Needless to say, this matter is to remain strictly confidential between the four of us. Sinclair will not be a part of this operation. And they're both listening, and we see Kym's face, and she looks kind of agitated. Then he says, Lieutenant Hawk, Sergeant Liddell, and we have a close-up of his face because he's, the focus is on him and the importance of his words. Will you help us end Lune once and for all? Just like, ending Lune, ending Lune, but okay. And they both bow down and say, yes, sir, you can count on us, simultaneously. And we have a focus on Kym's face, just her. And you can kind of see, you can already see like the wheels turning in her head. And we'll see a little bit more a bit later, but you can see there's some hesitation or definitely thoughtfulness on her part about this. So we step out into the hallway and it's empty. And then Will and Kym are walking down. And Will says, well, that was unexpected. And Kym says, I didn't see it coming either. It feels dirty. I don't buy his, they must step out of the shadows BS. And, that's, it's nice to have a perspective that, not everything your boss does is right. And like, yeah, not everyone, there are some people who are like kind of sycophantic or can't think out of the box. Like, yeah, whatever the boss says must be right. But Kym does not. She's not one of those people. She thinks for herself. And she thinks she doesn't agree with him in terms of that they have to be brought to light. She seems happy that, they're effective, and she doesn't care about revealing their identities. But Will does see Hermann's point, and he says, well, he isn't completely wrong, but to be honest, I think this is personal for Hermann. And Kym looks, which is also, I'm surprised, honestly, that Will can step out of the box this way, because Will does seem to be like a rule follower. And for him to be able to understand that not everything his superior does is just out of pure motivations is nice to see that Will can think on his own like that. And he explains himself more. He says, the man holds grudges. He must feel humiliated. In only a couple of weeks, Lune's unmasked more Phantom Scythe members than Hermann ever has. And Kym tells us a bit of information. We know he's jealous that Tristan Sinclair got made chief of police. No wonder he hates Lauren. So now we know that he was interested in being chief of police. And that he could possibly have a very petty reason to not like Lauren as well. And she said, I wouldn't be surprised if catching Lune is just Hermann gunning for a promotion.
I mean, yeah, it's possible.
It also shows just how, one of the things I've noticed, so my professional background, I guess, is in psychology and business now. And one thing I've noticed like time and time again is how organizations are affected by the humans that live in them and their personalities and their relationship dynamics. And it's not just about, pure getting the job done or doing the right thing, that people's personalities have such a huge effect on an organization. And you see it very clearly here. And Kym and Will are just, contemplating this and walking along. And then Will says, and this is, you can see it's really painful for him to say this. He says, do you think it might be one of us? Oh. You just see that it's hard.
I mean, you can see that even though they're coworkers, like the whole precinct, maybe just the office, but like that whole group of them are pretty good friends. Like even though they, are just coworkers, most of them, they still, they trust each other and they like each other. And it kind of like, it's kind of painful to think about like possibly one of my close friends has done this.
Maybe, that body they found, that bodyguard, one of my close friends did this.
Kym now at this point is looking down, but she is having a memory where she asks Lauren, "What did you do last night instead of sleeping?" And Lauren's like, "What?" Because she already in her head is suspecting that something is off with Lauren and thinking that possibly she's Lune. And she says, "If it is," and she has this extremely worried look on her face, "I hope he's good enough at this game not to get caught." End of chapter.
Well, she suspects Lauren and she's using, but the thing that, okay, she's suspecting Lauren, right? But she's using a he, him pronoun. And I think it's because she doesn't trust Will either. Because she knows that Will follows the rules. He's very good at his job and he listens to his superiors. So she doesn't know what Will would do in the case that Lauren is actually Lune. And so while yes, they've both been assigned to figure out who Lune is, she needs to make sure that whoever Lune is, they still stay safe. And this might even be a sign of her potentially even sabotaging their assignment to make sure that Lune's identities are not found out.
Honestly, this is a big, you can see a lot about Kym's character based on just how much she trusts her friends and in the way where she trusts Lauren, because even though she suspects Lauren and she's pretty sure it is Lauren, I feel like she believes that what Lauren is doing is what Lauren thinks is the right thing to do and probably trusts her on that and knows that she'll, work her way out of it and can handle things herself.
Yeah, Kym seems to be siding with Lune. She seems very supportive of what Lune does. And although I think Kym recognizes that their methods are not perfect, I think she's still Lune is still doing the right thing.
Yeah, and even when they first heard about Lune, she was excited and she was like, "Wow, they're putting away so many suspects that we couldn't get any information on and we couldn't put them behind bars." So she was always excited about Lune and undisturbed or not very disturbed by the fact that they were doing, vigilante stuff. Yeah, so here we have setting Kym up in a certain way. And that's all we'll say on the matter. So any final thoughts on this episode?
Hermann's right. I think he's right. Hermann's hard to like, but I still think him trying to figure out who Lune are, I think he's doing the right thing. Even if we, the audience, know that would be a very bad thing for Lune. Logically, realistically, it is right.
I think that dynamic of having a character be unlikable but still do the right thing, it's very interesting because we like to like people, right? But sometimes you have to be unlikable in order to do what's right. And it's kind of like sacrificing your own social status. Although I think Hermann mainly, I don't know if he would ever be able to be kind of likable, but it is still interesting to realize that.
I also think that what the episode tells us motivation wise about Hermann, saying that this is him gunning for a promotion, I feel like that is true, but I feel like it's also going to be subverted a bit. So it's definitely another motivation that hasn't quite been revealed yet. So we're supposed to disagree with Hermann right now for why he's doing this.
Yeah, I think it shows that there's both reasons. There's the personal and there's the professional. Anyone else have final thoughts before we wrap up?
I like the use of dramatic lighting with the final panel of Kym. I think that it shows a lot about that moment, and instead of skipping over it, we sort of look at it more than we would.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that reminds me. So obviously at this point, we are past the climax of season 1, right? That was episode, the unnamed episode that we shall not, because I know Kenny gets uncomfortable with that, so I'm not going to say it. But, we are past the climax. And so now what's happening at this point of season 1 is we are getting the setup for season 2. And that makes me excited because I remember reading this for the first time. It's like, oh my God, this is what season 2 is going to be. Season 2 is going to be Kym and Will chasing after Lune, and Lune having to, I don't know, they're going to have to figure out their problems or something. So yeah. Something I noticed mainly is that after that episode, 44, 45, and basically all the episodes after that are all setting up season 2, which I think is pretty neat.
That's a good observation. Yeah. Definitely it's playing out now. All right.
Oh, Mindy, we didn't quite hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I just agreed with you. And so that it's definitely playing out in season 2 now. So guys, thank you so much for coming on the episode. And Kenny, welcome. Thanks for being on your first time. And I will see you all later.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good night.
Good night.
You too.
Thank you so much to my current patrons: Susie, Lady Libris, Lily, Jenny, Haley, Maria, Molly, Veronica, Emily, Joe, Rochelle, Saucy Talcos, Meg, and Rose, Priya, Alexa, Misty, Laura, Joanne, Patty, Jen, Imelda, Esther, I'm Watching You Towards Poppy Seed, Marie, Jen, Emily, Jean, Jen, Erin, D, and Kay. Your support is truly appreciated.